vehicle for prosperity is the free market system. It's maximum liberty, maximum personal responsibility. Today, I spend a full hour with a man who understands the power of liberty better than most, and he's taking action now and changing things, Mr. Ron Paul. How are you, Doctor?
Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Good.
I'm not going to call you Congressman because I have a hard time people retaining their title of public service after they're
gone.
Name basis. First name. I'll call you Doctor because you're still a doctor.
Well, you know, when they asked me that in Washington, they said, you want to be called Dr. Congressman? I said, well, doctors are still more popular than politicians.
Not for long, not with what's going on.
Oh, no, that's right.
We wanted to get you on because I homeschool, and we have several people on our staff that homeschool. Right. And I think it's like the university system. We will never fix our country if we are all put in the same box. We are not thinking creatively anymore. We're not thinking differently anymore. We're taught, stay in this box from cradle to grave.
And just think of the advancement of this notion that we should have a core curriculum to really make the big box and force it on everybody.
I know.
Instead of teaching or allowing kids to learn on their own and what they want to learn at the pace they want to do it, and have it self-directed, have parents in charge, not the state. I mean, that's where the real problem is.
We highlight books of guests, and I don't think I've ever seen one highlighted with that many highlights. I've never seen anybody, any book that has come back to me, Glenn, you got to talk to him about these things, with that many highlights in it. The name of the book is The School Revolution. And how are we going to, first give me the premise, and then how we get there.
Well, we have a broken system.
Yeah.
And we have to offer them something else. Now, homeschooling's been around for a while. In the 80s, we had to fight real hard to make sure they didn't close down all homeschooling, and that fight occurred in Texas. But most people now, and it's not just conservative, there's people from the other side of the spectrum who realize that the system isn't working. Every single day you see the violence in school, and kids getting out of school, and they go to college and they have to be taught how to write again and spell again. They have to learn their English. So the system is very much broken. And I go over that on the history. But also, I want to have a curriculum that talks about the freedom philosophy and people thinking along these terms, and have a different perspective on history, which you're very interested in, different perspective in history and economics, obviously, but also to change the atmosphere with the idea of getting young people prepared to either go to college or start their own business. And the easiest job is convincing people there's something seriously wrong with the system.
It's easy.
But unfortunately, in Washington, economics, things go bad, spend more money, print more money. And that's the way it is in education, too. They want to just spend more money on it.
The problem is, though, and I know this as a homeschooling dad, my wife feels the same way, it's terrifying because this whole society has taught you don't have a certificate. You're not smart enough. You can't do that. Let professionals. If I hear that one more time, let the professionals do it. Give me a break, man. Look what you've churned out. The system is churning out a bunch of people that cannot survive.
And homeschooling isn't like if I were required to homeschool. I happen not to have homeschooled. But let's say I was to homeschool in this day and age, and I've been through the sciences and medicine, but if I had to sit down and explain physics at this moment, I'd have to work at it. It isn't like the parent has to know every single thing. I mean, in the instance that we have in the curriculum, we want people to be helped on the internet. That's what's so great about the internet. And there'll be lectures on the internet, and there'll be communication among the students on the internet. There'll be self-taught at their own pace with parental help. There's more guidance in the first 6 years because they're not, they need more guidance. But later on, you've had the experience, and obviously you allowed your kids to make a little bit of decision on their own.
Yeah.
They
go
like this instead of everybody does this and march them in and sit down. And some people describe it as prison. I thought, holy man, that's pretty much true. Walk in and sit in this chair and don't move.
Right. And go at everybody else's pace and learn at the average way. When we're boxing everybody in. Let me show something, and this is one of the reasons why I saw this interview with you on MSNBC, and I immediately, before the interview was over, I said, book Ron Paul for two reasons. One, because I want to talk to you about homeschooling, but two, how do you conquer this? Look at what they did to you on MSNBC.
We've been taught that the Federal Reserve is sacred, except for the last 5 years, people are questioning the Federal Reserve. We have been taught that deficits are good and spending is good and borrowing is no problem. But we have to reverse that, and we have to.
What's the correlation between homeschooling and getting a better understanding of the Fed? I mean, that's
the whole thing
is
my whole curriculum and everything I talk about is based on the freedom philosophy, which is what I've been talking about for 30 years.
If you want to get to 20% of children being homeschooled, that's going to mean a vast drop in the number of women in the workforce, because it is largely women who are doing the homeschooling. A lot of women can't afford to give up their jobs and homeschool their children. A lot of families can't afford that. And do we actually want to be encouraging women not to take part in the workforce, because we know how valuable that diversity is?
That is the most outrageous thing I've ever heard.
Like somehow I'm anti-woman now.
Yeah, you're anti-women, and somehow or another that a woman's job is more important than her children, or a man's job is more important than their children's education. That's that one. Yeah, I was flabbergasted.
That was her assumption, but she didn't even leave any wiggle room for just saying, well, maybe you can work this out. Maybe you can do part-time. Right. Maybe you can get somebody to help you.
What I shouted was, he was talking about 25%. You were asking for 25%.
Right.
Not 100%. 25%. There's not 25% of American women that would say, you know what? For the preservation of freedom, for the best chance for my children to even survive, forget about the country, for my best chance of my children to survive, I'm going to take this on. I think that's important. No?
But don't interfere with my career. Huh?
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, well.
Okay, so we have Common Core coming into the schools now, and tracking our kids. I mean, I know you're called a conspiracy theorist if you say this. I don't know how you did it for so long, but conspiracy theorist if you claim this is happening. But it is true. It's happening. Google is involved. Yahoo's involved. Microsoft is a big supporter of this, and they talk about the parents and the children now as customers. If this was done by the right, the left would be crazy. What I want to ask you is, how can we break down the walls of left and right? Because I said this when Romney was running. If Romney gets in fact I just said it on Syria, I'll bet you he would have been saying the same thing about Syria. The exact same thing about Syria. And I'll bet you that at least 30% of the Republicans, if not more, would have all stood up and said, yeah, he's right.
Well, I use a little bit different language, and I'll see if you think it's worthwhile. First thing is I get tired of conservative, liberal, right and left, Republican and Democrat, because it's all a mixed bag.
Yep.
So when people ask me, well, what word would you use? I like the word non-intervention and versus those who like to intervene. So I want to be a non-interventionist on our personal lives and how we raise our kids. We don't want the government to tell us. But I don't want intervention in the economy, so I become a free market economist. And then I also follow the founders' admonition that we shouldn't be involved in the internal affairs of other nations. So I'm a non-interventionist. And all of a sudden you pick up support from the left and you pick up support from the right, but it comes together as a consistent philosophy. that the individual's important, and none of us are considered important, nor should we be penalized because we belong to a certain group.
Correct.
You say everybody is an individual, and we don't have, and that means you have responsibility for oneself. And if you mess up, you can't go to the government to be bailed out. So those are the words I use, and I think it tells us pretty clear. And if you use another word for intervention, authoritarian, they want to use force and compulsion, and yet I think conservatives and liberals come up short in each area. So one short on economics, we got to tell you what to do or you won't take care of yourself. Others, if you have all these choices you might make bad choices. Yeah, but what if the government makes bad choices for us? Then we all suffer the consequences. So yes, freedom does mean you have a chance that you might make bad choices, but you can't eliminate that. But you can minimize it by keeping the bad guys out of government.
Let me just change subject just for a second here, because we're kind of here. I've been having this argument that people say I'm a conservative, and I want to say I'm a libertarian, but I'm not. I'm not Penn Jillette. I'm a conservative and I'm a religious guy, but I don't want to shove my religion down anybody's throat. And so I've been saying that I think there's a lot of liberals. I can live next to a liberal if they're a libertarian liberal. I don't think it's enough to say I'm a liberal or I'm a conservative. I think you need to say I'm a small government or a non-authoritarian conservative or liberal, because it's only the problem really is, can religious people get along with libertarians and find a coalition, and can libertarians get along with religious people and find a coalition?
Matter of fact, yes, I obviously I believe that strongly, because I use that as the example when I'm talking to the college kids, and I, go to the college campuses and I get good receptions. And when I start talking about social values and people's personal lifestyles and all, I use the religious issue as one to demonstrate it, because we're pretty good on religion. We don't force our religion on people. We're tolerant of people who have different religions in this country, and we tolerate atheists. We usually don't even ask people what's going on. But when it comes to other social things, which are vices for many of us, a lot of people can't tolerate that. So the biggest problem, I think, is this idea that if you allow people to make their own choices, that some of the people aren't very tolerant. Well, they're doing things that I don't personally like. But, where you draw the line, of course, is the don't hurt anybody. If you hurt yourself, we can't protect you against yourself.
It neither breaks my leg nor picks my pocket.
Yeah.
What difference does it make? Thomas Jefferson.
That's it.
Yeah.
And but liberal do-gooders, the interventionists, think that, oh no, we can't trust the people with that much responsibility. I've had members of Congress sit and tell me, as we were voting for some of this intervention to protect the people, I said, why are you doing this? I mean, why do we have to tell them? They literally said, the person said, they're too stupid. And that's what they're operating on, that people are too stupid and they are so smart, and that's why they have to have a core curriculum,
right.
And that's why they have to tell you how big your soda drink has to be,
right.
The whole mess.
Okay, so then let's go and take a quick break, and then we're going to come back to that. Because people are really pretty, they're not stupid. They're living in self-imposed ignorance. And I did it for most of my life. You can find the answers. But if you don't start to look for the answers, if you don't start reading history, if you don't start educating yourself and your family, you become a slave. And that's what the system is churning out now. A bunch of people who are willing just to go, well, yeah, I'm going to follow him because he told me to.
But there's competition today.
Yes, there is.
You're part of it.
Okay, back in just a second.
Set Yankee to the monitor. Roll Yankee. Dissolve.